After July's total lunar eclipse blood moon, there is nothing such as a big end event, and 2018 is going to pass away. But the total solar eclipse, the lunar eclipse of the blood moon, and the time of ending are foretold exactly in the Bible as follows. The New Testament, Acts chapter 2 verses 16 to 21, New International Version, NIV. No, this is what was spoken by the prophet Joel. In the last days, God says, I will pour out my spirit on all people. Your sons and daughters will prophesy. Your young men will see visions. Your old men will dream dreams. Even on my servants, both men and women, I will pour out my spirit in those days. And they will prophesy. I will show wonders in the heavens above, and signs on the earth below. Blood and fire and billows of smoke. The sun will be turned to darkness, and the moon to blood, before the coming of the great and glorious day of the Lord. And everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. The Old Testament, Joel chapter 2 verses 30 to 31, New International Version, NIV. I will show wonders in the heavens and on the earth, blood and fire and billows of smoke. The sun will be turned to darkness, and the moon to blood, before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. The New Testament, Revelation chapter 6 verses 12 to 17, New International Version, NIV. I watched as he opened the sixth seal. There was a great earthquake. The sun turned black like sackcloth made of goat hair, the whole moon turned blood red, and the stars in the sky fell to earth, as figs drop from a fig tree when shaken by a strong wind. The heavens receded like a scroll being rolled up, and every mountain and island was removed from its place. Then the kings of the earth, the princes, the generals, the rich, the mighty, and everyone else, both slave and free, hid in caves and among the rocks of the mountains. They called to the mountains and the rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him who sits on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of their wrath has come, and who can withstand it? The New Testament, Gospel of Matthew chapter 24 section 15 to 19, Gospel of Mark chapter 13 section 14 to 17. So when you see standing in the holy place the abomination that causes desolation, spoken of through the prophet Daniel, let the reader understand. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let no one on the housetop go down to take anything out of the house. Let no one in the field go back to get their cloak. How dreadful it will be in those days for pregnant women and nursing mothers. The New Testament, Gospel of Matthew chapter 24 section 20 to 22, Gospel of Mark chapter 13 section 18 to 20. Pray that your flight will not take place in winter or on the Sabbath. For then there will be great distress, unequaled from the beginning of the world until now and never to be equaled again. If those days had not been cut short, no one would survive, but for the sake of the elect those days will be shortened. The New Testament, Gospel of Matthew chapter 24 section 29 to 30, Gospel of Mark chapter 13 section 24 to 26. Immediately after the distress of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from the sky, and the heavenly bodies will be shaken. Then will appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then all the peoples of the earth will mourn when they see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. The New Testament, Luke chapter 21, verses 25 to 28, New International Version. There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. On the earth, nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring and tossing of the sea. People will faint from terror, apprehensive of what is coming on the world, for the heavenly bodies will be shaken. At that time they will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. When these things begin to take place, stand up and lift up your heads, because your redemption is drawing near. Around December 2012, planet Nibiru approached the Sun from the southern hemisphere of the Earth. After planet Nibiru passed through the perihelion in the second half of 2014, passing between Mars and Jupiter in 2016, it approached the northern hemisphere of the Earth from the diagonally upper part of the Earth's Arctic. It was closest to the Earth in late June, pouring a lot of the energy of planet Nibiru into the Earth from June to October, and gradually moved away. The American Great Eclipse in August 2017 was the ending sign. On August 21, 2017, Monday, numerology 3, the total solar eclipse band across the North American continent, from western Oregon to eastern South Carolina. The total solar eclipse comes out from the Pacific Ocean to the Atlantic through Oregon, Idaho, Wyoming, Nebraska, Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, Kentucky, Georgia, North Carolina, and South Carolina. On July 27, 2018, the total lunar eclipse, which was the second time this year, occurred. The total lunar eclipse of the July blood moon was praised by astronomers as the longest lunar eclipse of the 21st century. It lasted for an unbelievable length of 1 hour and 43 minutes. The Bible's end prophecy has already been fulfilled until the total lunar eclipse of blood moon in 2018. What will happen in the end event in 2019? There is no grief if there is provision. Now, it is the time of the end. The most important message from space aliens to humans on the Earth: the love, peace and justice, morals. In 2018, the large harvest season Ascension Harvest will start. New Testament Revelation chapter 20, section 12 to 13 New International Version, NIV. And I saw the dead, great and small, standing before the throne, and books were opened. Another book was opened, which is the book of life. The dead were judged according to what they had done as recorded in the books. The sea gave up the dead that were in it, and death and Hades gave up the dead that were in them, and each person was judged according to what they had done. New Testament Revelation chapter 20, section 14 to 15 New International Version, NIV. Then death and Hades were thrown into the lake of fire. The lake of fire is the second death. Anyone whose name was not found written in the book of life was thrown into the lake of fire. The New Testament Gospel of Matthew chapter 7 section 21. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. The New Testament Gospel of Matthew chapter 24 section 31, Gospel of Mark chapter 13 section 27. And he will send his angels with a loud trumpet call, and they will gather his elect from the four winds, from one end of the heavens to the other. In the Ascension Harvest, which is the great harvest season, the lifetime behaviors of all people are graded and where they will be reborn is decided. Only those whose names are written in the Book of Life can become residents of the new space scientific era. Now, it is the time of the end. The big harvest season and the ascension time are gradually approaching. We will confirm the information necessary for ascension once again for this time and encourage spiritual growth every day.